Raven's Veil is a dark fantasy horror anthology podcast that may contain explicit language and thematic elements not suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Raven's Veil, a dark fantasy Southern Gothic horror anthology podcast set in the shadowy world of the Deep South. A convergent reality situated around what most of humanity has accepted as the truth. Obscured from human eyes, Raven's Veil is a mystical sanctuary intended to preserve the existence of its immortal inhabitants. The Macquarie, commonly referred to as witches, have been hunted since before written history. The witches of the Highlands fled persecution to a new land that would come to be known as Appalachia. In these parts, you should always be leery of the things that scare witches. The veil is thin tonight, family. Let's see what darkness lies beyond.
Well, hey there, family. We're so thankful for the support you have been giving us. We love hearing from you guys. We also want to say a few words of appreciation to all y'all that came out to the Appalachian Horror Fest 2024 to support us. On behalf of Small Raven Media, the Ravensvale Cauldron, and the cast and crew of the Ravensvale podcast, we want to express our appreciation for your support and dedication to the art of storytelling. Well, go ahead and get you a seat now, because we need to get back to finding out who was at the front door over at Sunfire Hall. So settle down now, family, and listen up. I'm pretty sure we're about to get into the thick of it. Astrid Vandenberg strode into Sunfire Hall, her dark cloak billowing behind her. Her hair was shoulder length and black as night. Her skin was pale with a faint peachy blush around her cheeks. Her eyes were a striking deep charcoal hue, appearing almost stormy, with a mix of light and dark shades that seemed to shift with the light, giving the impression of depth and mystery. Looking into her eyes made you feel like she could see into your very soul, knowing everything about you. She was known for her sharp tongue and grudges, particularly against Palmer, the high priest of the Coven of Covens.
Welcome, Astrid. What brings you to Sunfire Hall this fine morning?
Astrid's sharp and calculating eyes scanned the room as she greeted Jude. Jude greeted her with a nod, though his eyes betrayed a hint of wariness.
Business, Jude. Always business.
Over his shoulder, Jude called out to Sibyl and Petra.
Sibyl! Petra! We have a visitor!
Jude's voice carried a note of urgency. Sibyl and Petra exchanged a glance, their curiosity piqued. They quickly made their way to the front hall, ready to greet whomever had come calling so early in the day. As they entered the great hall, Petra slowed down, falling slightly behind Sibyl.
Sibyl, this is Astrid Vandenberg. Astrid is the leader of Lauros Pass, the Macquarie sanctuary in Sweden, where Petra is from.
Sibyl immediately remembered the story of how the people from Lauros Pass had treated Petra, and her face began to turn red as she looked to find Petra, who was standing slightly behind her.
Good morning, Miss Vandenberg. Have you come to visit our dear Petra?
Sibyl's voice was laced with a veneer of politeness, but her underlying displeasure was unmistakable. Her forced smile and the slight edge in her tone betrayed her true feelings towards the woman.
No, I have absolutely no desire to see a degenerate like him. Do you honestly think that I would waste my time on someone so depraved? I'm actually here to see you, the girl everyone is rambling on about. The way. I wanted to see you for myself. if you are truly destined to be the salvation of our kind, then I wanted to offer my assistance to you, should you ever need it. Is it true you can will all 4 of the ascensions? But where are my manners, Sibyl? It is indeed a pleasure to meet you.
Her tone softened slightly. A rare occurrence.
I trust your father is well. I haven't seen him since your poor, dear mother passed away. Such a tragedy. She was ever so talented.
He is. Thank you. And how's Lauros Pass? Are you sure you don't want to speak to my best friend, Petra? Isn't he from Lauros Pass?
Thriving, as always. Though I must say, it lacks the charm of Thistle's Keep.
She glanced around the great hall, snobbery dripping from her very being, her eyes narrowing as she pretended to finally spot Petra standing behind Sibyl. Her face contorted into a sneer of disgust.
Petra, still slithering around and pestering Jude, I see. How utterly delightful. I'll be sure to inform your family that you're still stubbornly clinging to life. What a pity. I had hoped that you would have been put out of your misery by now. But at last, here you are, gracing us with your presence. Honestly, it's a wonder that you managed to hold your head up, considering what you are. One might even call it a wonder. Perhaps one day, you'll stumble upon whatever it is you so desperately crave and choke on it. But until then, we'll just have to endure your charming personality.
Her tone was icy and dismissive as she scrutinized the boy from head to toe. After a tense silence, Petra spoke with a cut and sharpness that Sibyl had never seen in him before. The words sliced through the air laden with bitterness that revealed his true feelings. Sibyl could see the anger and hurt simmering just beneath the surface. But he masked it well, refusing to show any sign of weakness. His eyes, however, betrayed a flicker of the turmoil within, a silent testimony to the emotional storm raging inside him.
Good morning to you, too, Astrid. Why are you really here?
Umbra magically materialized at Petra's feet. The tiny kitten seemed to emerge from the shadows themselves, its presence both comforting and mysterious. Petra bent down and gently picked him up, feeling an immediate sense of relief wash over him. Umbra's soft velvety fur and the subtle warmth it radiated provided a soothing balm to Petra's frayed nerves. As he held Umbra close, the tension in his shoulders eased, and a calmness settled over him, as if the sweet creature's magic was weaving a protective cocoon around his troubled heart.
Petra, I'm here to speak with Sibyl, not a degenerate like you. So kindly, stay out of the way while I handle my business.
Astrid said, in an indignant tone that betrayed her true feelings. Petra's shoulders immediately slumped, and he involuntarily winced, tears filling his eyes.
Miss Vandenberg, that is enough. We uphold a culture of respect and kindness in these parts. Petra is a valued and cherished member of my family. Please refrain from making such rude remarks. If this behavior continues, we'll have to ask you to leave.
Sibyl glanced at Petra, then shifted her gaze to Jude, seeking reassurance that she hadn't overstepped her boundaries. Jude met her eyes and offered a warm, encouraging smile, silently conveying his approval. Astrid, sensing the shift in the room and realizing her mistake, attempted to correct herself. Her voice, though laced with a thin guise of apology, still carried a hint of malice. She bowed her head slightly toward Sibyl, though her eyes flashed with irritation, and said, her tone betraying her true feelings despite the words,
"Of course, Sibyl. My apologies."
It was at that moment Aunt Ruby Bea and Palmer glinted into the great hall, their presence announced by a shimmering burst of magical energy. They were ready to begin enhancing and creating protective wards. However, their determined expressions quickly shifted to ones of shock and disbelief. Standing in the center of the great hall was none other than Palmer's arch-rival, Astrid Vandenberg. Her presence was unexpected, and it was more than obvious that she had been caught off guard by their arrival. Her dark eyes gleamed with a mixture of curiosity and hidden contempt for the two. Astrid's elegant yet imposing figure was bathed in sunlight, her aura radiating a cold, calculating energy and highlighting the sharpness of her gaze and the subtle smirk playing on her lips. It was clear that she had not anticipated this encounter, and the tension in the room was palpable. The great hall was usually serene, but now it felt like the stage for an impending confrontation. The air was thick with unspoken words and unsolved conflicts. Everyone held their breath, waiting to see what would unfold next. Aunt Ruby Bea and Palmer exchanged a quick knowing glance, their minds racing to anticipate Astrid's next move. Somewhat forced, Palmer said,
"Astrid Vandenberg, how nice to see you. How are you?"
I am well, Palmer. Thank you for asking. I hope things are going smoothly in Ravensville. It's so good to see you again.
Astrid said, her voice carrying a hint of warmth despite the underlying tension.
I decided that it was time for me to meet your lovely daughter, Sibyl. The way. To pay my respects and to offer her my assistance, should she ever need it. I only managed to glimpse her from a distance at the last coven meeting. Oh, where are my manners? Hello, Ruby. It's been a while.
She paused, her eyes briefly softening as she mentioned Sibyl. Astrid inclined her head reverently in Palmer's direction with a delicate air balancing formality and something Palmer couldn't quite make out. The room seemed to relax slightly, the tension easing as she acknowledged the importance of respect within their magical community. Palmer nodded, appreciating the gesture, though his eyes remained weary.
Of course, now that you're here, I don't want to intrude on your visit. Jude, if you would be so kind, I'd like to freshen up before I depart.
Jude guided her to the bathroom on the second floor, the old wooden floorboards creaking under their feet.
Here, take your time.
Jude said softly, opening the door to reveal a spacious bathroom adorned with a clawfoot tub and a large ornate mirror. She nodded her smile, a blend of gratitude and subtle sarcasm. Jude, sensing her mixed emotions, hurriedly made his way back down to the great hall. Reaching the great hall, Jude found Palmer pacing nervously by the fireplace, the flames casting a flickering glow on his worried face. Aunt Ruby Bea sat in a chair in the sitting room, her knitting needles clacking rhythmically, though her eyes betrayed a deep concern.
Well, hey there, family. This is Melanie Alexander, the merchandising manager for the Ravensvale Podcast Network. Would it support you or your family to make additional income without having to leave your job, buy inventory, build a team underneath you, or invest significant money up front? I have been listening to so many of you who need this type of relief in your lives without taking you away from your personal life and families even more than you already are. So I came up with a solution. I'm launching a new company, Creating Goodness. and are recruiting those who share a heart for supporting locally made and ethically sourced products. You'll be so excited to learn who our local vendors are. With a simple app on your phone and marketing materials provided for you, you will be set up for success to share this curated virtual gift shop with your friends, family, clients, church members, and anyone in your sphere of influence. They get to enter and exit through the gift shop that lives on your phone. You don't have to carry any inventory. You don't have to deal with shipping. We are not an MLM, so no building a team underneath you. All you do is share our carefully selected products with the people you care about, and you will get paid. You will also be supporting local small business owners who share the same values that we do about creating goodness in our world. We were noticing that big companies only use big influencers to sell their products. So we developed the technology for anyone, influencer or not, to be able to spread the word about quality products they love and get paid too. So if you're curious about making a little extra money, contact us at creatinggoodness.com. Thanks for listening, and always never underestimate the power of kindness. Bye.
After closing the bathroom door, Astrid set to work. She retrieved a small wooden effigy from her cloak, its surface worn smooth from years of use. With a flick of her wrist, her wand materialized in her hand, its dark wood glistening in the dim light. She touched the effigy with the tip of the wand, and it floated gently to the window ledge. Whispering a few quiet words, the effigy shimmered and vanished out of sight. Satisfied, Astrid touched up her lipstick in the mirror and hurried downstairs. She offered quick farewells, her mind already on the next step. With her mission accomplished, she stepped outside and, with a final glance back, glinted to Lauros Pass. They began with the protective wards on Sibyl and Petra's bedrooms, meticulously weaving enchantments to ensure their safety. The wards glowed faintly, a testament to their power. From there, they extended the protective spells to cover the entire house and property, their movements synchronized and purposeful. After lunch, they divided into 2 groups to tackle the rest of the keep. Petra, Sibyl, and Aunt Ruby Bea moved west, while Palmer and Jude headed east, their eyes scanning for vulnerabilities. They worked tirelessly, knowing they would eventually meet somewhere in the middle, late in the evening, confident that the work was done. Thistle's Keep wasn't as large as Ravensvale, but it was still a significant area to cover in just one day. Aunt Ruby Bea's voice was steady and strong, her years of experience evident in every word as they made their way around Thistle's Keep, checking and enhancing the protective wards. Ever so often, Aunt Ruby Bea would stop, her eyes narrowing as she sensed a weak spot. With a practiced hand, she would create a new type of defense ward, her fingers weaving intricate patterns into the air, leaving behind a shimmering barrier that pulsed with energy. Petra and Sibyl followed closely, their inexperienced skills assisting Aunt Ruby Bea's expertise as much as possible. Petra's keen eye missed nothing, and Sibyl's intuitive sense of magic guided them unerringly. The sun blazed fiercely in the afternoon sky, causing a relentless heat that saturated the air with humidity. Sibyl felt a shiver run down her spine, despite the heat of the afternoon. Petra, the youngest of the trio, glanced nervously at the shadows that seemed to dance even in the daylight.
Stay focused,
Aunt Ruby Bea whispered, sensing Petra's unease.
the wards have to be perfect.
As the final words of the incantation left their lips, a brisk cold wind swept through the clearing. The temperature dropped unexpectedly, and the once intense sunlight seemed to dim, casting eerie shadows everywhere. From the depths of the woods, a figure emerged. Cloaked in darkness, its eyes glowed like dimly lit candles. Ruby Bea quietly whispered to her young companions,
It's a Nix, and I certainly hope this isn't Jude's idea of a test.
What's a Nix?
Sibyl asked, unable to take her eyes off the creature. Out of nowhere, Umbra appeared at Sibyl's feet. Startled, Petra started to pick up the kitten, but Aunt Ruby Bea stopped him.
A Nix is a creature of pure darkness, shrouded in mystery and shadow. They're elusive beings, rarely seen during the day. They thrive in the depths of night, where their powers are strongest. Their presence is often felt rather than seen. A chill and whisper in the wind, or a fleeting shadow in the corner of your eye. I remember the last time I encountered a Nix. I was just a young girl, playing near the edge of the woods in Ravensvale, well after I should have been home. The air was thick with the scent of pine and the soft hum of crickets. Suddenly, the world grew colder, and the shadows deepened unnaturally. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw it, a figure cloaked in darkness, its form shifting and bleeding in the night. It was both terrifying and mesmerizing, a sight that has haunted my dreams ever since. They are inherently malevolent, but it's said some ancients keep them as guardians. Whatever the case, it shouldn't be here. Get behind me.
The Nix hissed, a sound that seemed to pierce Sibyl's very soul. It lunged forward, its form writhing, twisting like smoke. Umbra now wrapped himself around Sibyl's leg, and she immediately understood what the creature was. Fear pulsed through her entire body. The Nix loomed menacingly, encircling them, drawing closer as it skulked slowly around them. It flickered and faded from one spot to another without taking a step.
Hold your ground,
Aunt Ruby Bea commanded, her voice fierce and unwavering. She raised her wand, focused on the Nix. Sibyl and Petra followed suit, their own wands at the ready. Aunt Ruby Bea struck first, her wand sending a beam of light towards the creature. The Nix recoiled, but only for a moment. Sibyl closed her eyes and attempted to cast a fireball spell towards the creature. It didn't seem to react to her meager attack. Reaching out to Umbra with her mind, she sensed the Nix's hunger for darkness and its aversion to light. Petra fumbled, but finally blasted a white beam of light from his wand, driving the creature back into the shadows. The Nix screeched, its form sputtering as it tried to escape the light. In an instant, the creature was standing face to face with Petra. Like a winter's chill, its cold, putrid breath blowing in his face, sending shivers down his spine. Petra was paralyzed, his heart pounding in his chest as he gazed deeply into its vacant eyes, which seemed to swallow the light around them. Air grew thick with an eerie silence, and time itself seemed to stand still. He could feel the weight of its presence pressing down on him, a dark and ancient power threatening to consume his soul. Sibyl appeared to lose conscious control of herself, but in that trance-like state, she unleashed a relentless barrage of fiery blasts, each one more ferocious than the last, fiercely driving the creature away from Petra. Aunt Ruby Bea joined Sibyl, their magic intertwining seamlessly. Sibyl, driven by an unseen force, unleashed a brutal bombardment at the Nix. The magic manifested as an enormous fireball, crackling with electricity, each the size of a cannonball. The creature thrashed and writhed, but it was no match for their combined strength. With a final desperate cry, the Nix dissolved into nothingness, the chill lifting from the clearing. The three of them stood in silence, breathing heavily.
You did it! You saved my life, Sibyl.
Petra whispered, his voice trembling with relief. Aunt Ruby Bea placed a comforting hand on his shoulder.
Yes, we did.
Sibyl slowly regained her composure, her eyes sweeping across the dense, shadowy forest. She took a deep breath, feeling the warm, humid air fill her lungs. Nodding to herself, she asked,
What just happened?
Well, alrighty, family. That's where we're going to leave you today. We're so glad you came to visit for a spell and find out what's going on at Ravensvale. We also hope you've listened to our Halloween special and that you're as excited about the spooky season as we are. If you like what you've heard in this episode, tune into our next episode to see what happens next. Now, family, you adults have a few chores to do. Go on over to ravensvale.com and see about doing your chores on social media. Follow us on all the social media platforms that we've made available just for you folks. Like, listen, subscribe, and follow wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you don't mind, leave us one of those good ratings and a kind comment. You can find the Ravensvale Podcast on your favorite podcast platform. If you haven't already, just search for the Ravensvale Podcast. And again, make sure you hit that follow button to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Oh, and tell your friends about us, won't you? So until next time, family, see you soon.
The Ravensvale Podcast is a production of Small Raven Media. Today's story was written, directed, and narrated by Ed Bolden-Greer. The voice of Sibyl Ashford was performed by Kristen Newby. The voice of Aunt Ruby Bea was performed by Lena Perkins. The voice of Petra Hunley was performed by Presley King. The voice of Palmer Ashford was performed by Jordan Walker. The voice of Jude Grieger was performed by Jared Bolden-Greer. The voice of Astrid Vandenberg was performed by Veronica Williams. Audio engineering and sound design by Nick DeVan at Nicky D Sound. Copyrighted 2024, Small Raven Media. All rights reserved.